May 24th is not just any ordinary day on the calendar. What many don't realize is that this specific date holds a spiritual power that Padre Pio himself recognized, a power connected to Mary, help of Christians, that could dramatically shift the direction of your prayers, your protection, and your spiritual breakthroughs. The blessings available on the feast of Mary, help of Christians, are extraordinary, but most people miss them completely. Padre Pio once advised a spiritual daughter who came to him in desperate need. She had been struggling for months, feeling abandoned and hopeless, until she followed his advice about May 24th. What happened next changed everything for her. But before I reveal these powerful practices that Padre Pio recommended specifically for May 24th, I must warn you, there's a reason why so many faithful Catholics never experience the fullness of Mary's intercession on this special feast day. The enemy knows the power of this date and works tirelessly to distract believers from what could be their greatest spiritual breakthrough of the year. Have you ever felt that your prayers weren't being answered despite your faithfulness? Have you experienced moments when you needed divine intervention but felt heaven was silent? This could be connected to what Padre Pio understood about the specific timing of powerful intercession. I invite you to participate in this spiritual journey today. Have you ever celebrated the Feast of Mary, help of Christians before? Share in the comments if you have a special devotion to Our Lady under this beautiful title, because your testimony might be exactly what another viewer needs to hear right now. In the next few minutes, I'm going to share 3 specific practices that Padre Pio recommended for May 24th that have changed countless lives. But first, there's something crucial about Padre Pio's own relationship with Mary, help of Christians, that sets the foundation for everything else I'm about to share with you. What many people don't know about Padre Pio is his profound and intimate connection with Mary under the title of Help of Christians. While many saints have had special relationships with the Blessed Mother, Padre Pio's devotion to Mary, help of Christians, held a particular significance in his spiritual life and in his ministry of healing and conversion. From his early childhood in Pietrelcina, Francesco Forgione, who would later become Padre Pio, was taught by his mother about the powerful intercession of Mary, help of Christians. But it wasn't until his years of intense spiritual warfare that he discovered the extraordinary protection that came through this specific devotion. In my darkest moments of spiritual battle, Padre Pio once confided to a close spiritual son, when demonic forces came against me with their greatest fury, it was to Mary, help of Christians, that I turned. And never, not once, did she fail to come to my aid. This is why he would later insist that his spiritual children develop this same devotion, especially when facing seemingly impossible situations. The feast day of Mary, help of Christians on May 24th was not arbitrarily chosen by the Church. This date commemorates the day in 1814 when Pope Pius VII, who had been imprisoned by Napoleon Bonaparte, returned to Rome in triumph. His liberation and safe return were attributed directly to the intercession of Mary, help of Christians, after he had promised to institute a special feast in her honor if she would secure his freedom. Padre Pio understood this historical significance deeply. He recognized that Mary's title as Help of Christians wasn't just a beautiful phrase. It was a spiritual reality with practical power for believers who knew how to properly honor her on this feast day. The problem, Padre Pio would often explain to those who sought his counsel, is not that Mary doesn't want to help. It's that we don't approach her with the right disposition on the days when her intercession is most powerful. And May 24th, he insisted, was one of those most powerful days. But here's something remarkable that few people realize. Padre Pio believed that the graces available on this feast day weren't limited to just spiritual blessings. He witnessed countless physical healings, financial breakthroughs, family reconciliations, and seemingly impossible situations resolved when people followed his guidance regarding this special day. There was one particular case that Padre Pio often referenced. A woman whose son had been missing for 7 years, presumed dead. After following Padre Pio's specific instructions for the Feast of Mary, Help of Christians, she received a telegram the very next day. Her son was alive and returning home. But before I share the first specific practice that Padre Pio recommended for May 24th, I need to warn you about a common mistake that many devout Catholics make. This error, though seemingly minor, can significantly diminish the graces available on this feast day. Padre Pio was very clear about this, and his spiritual children who heeded this warning experienced far greater breakthroughs than those who didn't. The mistake has to do with how we prepare our hearts in the days leading up to May 24th. Most people simply wait until the actual feast day to begin their devotions, but Padre Pio taught something quite different, something that will change how you experience this powerful feast day forever. The first essential practice that Padre Pio recommended for the Feast of Mary, Help of Christians, is a spiritual preparation that begins 3 days before May 24th. The soil of your soul must be prepared before the seeds of grace can take root, he would tell his spiritual children. This 3-day preparation period was something Padre Pio insisted upon with unusual firmness. On May 21st, 3 days before the feast, Padre Pio advised beginning a simple but powerful novena. Each morning upon waking, he recommended praying 3 Hail Marys while kneeling, with your arms outstretched in the form of a cross. This unusual posture, which Padre Pio himself practiced, symbolizes our willingness to embrace whatever crosses God permits in our lives, an act of surrender that Mary finds irresistible. When you pray with your arms extended, Padre Pio explained, you mirror Christ's position on the cross. This reminds Mary of her son's sacrifice, and she is moved to extraordinary compassion for your needs. Those who have followed this practice consistently report a tangible sense of Mary's presence growing stronger as the feast day approaches. But there's a remarkable detail about this first practice that many overlook. After each Hail Mary, Padre Pio instructed adding these specific words, Mary, Help of Christians, make space in my life for the miracles God wants to give me. This simple addition transforms the familiar prayer into a powerful declaration of faith and openness to divine intervention. One of Padre Pio's spiritual daughters, a woman named Elisabetta, was struggling with a chronic illness that doctors had declared incurable. After faithfully following this 3-day preparation, beginning on May 21st, she awoke on the morning of May 24th, completely free of symptoms. Her doctor, an atheist, was so shaken by her inexplicable recovery that he began his own journey toward faith. But I must warn you, many people attempt this practice half-heartedly or inconsistently. Padre Pio was clear that these prayers must be said with complete focus and devotion. Better not to pray at all, he once said sternly to a distracted penitent, than to pray with your lips while your mind wanders to worldly concerns. Indeed, the second practice that Padre Pio emphasized for May 24th itself is perhaps even more powerful, but requires greater spiritual courage. On the actual feast day, he advised spending at least 30 minutes in silent contemplation of Mary's role as help of Christians in your life. But not just any kind of contemplation. He provided a specific meditation structure that has proven remarkably effective. First, spend 10 minutes thanking Mary for times she has already helped you, even if you didn't recognize her intercession at the time. Gratitude, Padre Pio insisted, opens the floodgates of heaven like nothing else. Next, spend 10 minutes presenting your most impossible situation to her, the one problem that seems beyond all human solution. Be specific, Padre Pio would urge. Tell her exactly what you need, as a child would tell his mother. But before I reveal the critical final 10 minutes of this meditation, the part that Padre Pio said makes all the difference between those who receive dramatic answers and those who don't, There's something vitally important you need to understand about Mary's role as help of Christians. Many faithful Catholics misunderstand the nature of Mary's intercession, particularly under this title. They approach her as they would approach any saint, but Padre Pio taught that Mary, help of Christians, must be approached in a unique way that acknowledges her specific mission in these troubled times. The final 10 minutes of Padre Pio's recommended meditation for May 24th is perhaps the most transformative part of the entire practice. During this time, he instructed his spiritual children to sit in complete silence and simply imagine Mary, help of Christians, actively working on their situation right now. See her in heaven, presenting your need to Jesus, he would say. Visualize her arranging circumstances, moving hearts, and preparing your miracle. This act of faith-filled imagination creates what Padre Pio called a spiritual channel, through which graces can flow more abundantly. He often said, "What you cannot imagine, you cannot receive." This doesn't mean that our imagination creates the miracle, but rather that our ability to envision Mary's help prepares us to recognize and receive it when it comes. A businessman from Milan once visited Padre Pio in desperate straits. His company was 3 days away from bankruptcy. Following Padre Pio's guidance for May 24th, he spent those final 10 minutes of meditation visualizing Mary, help of Christians, guiding potential investors to save his business. Later that same day, he received a phone call from an unexpected source offering exactly the investment he needed. The businessman later learned that the investor had felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to contact him specifically at the time he was completing his meditation. Now for the third practice, which Padre Pio considered indispensable for the Feast of Mary, help of Christians. This final element involves a specific act of charity performed on May 24th. The feast day, Padre Pio explained, must be marked by mercy if you wish to receive mercy. The charitable act should ideally be done for someone who can never repay you, a stranger, a poor person, or even an enemy. But here's the crucial detail that Padre Pio emphasized. It must be done anonymously. If your right hand knows what your left hand is doing, he would say, echoing Jesus' words, the spiritual power of the act is diminished. One of Padre Pio's spiritual sons told of how he had been struggling with a legal case that threatened to destroy his reputation and livelihood. On May 24th, following Padre Pio's guidance, he anonymously paid the overdue rent of a widow who lived in his apartment building. The next morning, the plaintiff in his case unexpectedly dropped all charges, saying he had a dream that convinced him to show mercy. But there's an important detail about these practices that many people unfortunately miss. Padre Pio insisted that they be performed with absolute trust, not desperate pleading. Mary is not deaf that you need to shout, he would say, nor is she reluctant that you need to beg. She is your mother, eager to help. Your role is to trust her completely. This distinction in attitude makes all the difference. Those who approach these practices with desperate anxiety often report minimal results, while those who perform them with peaceful confidence, regardless of their circumstances, experience the most profound breakthroughs. Here's a practical tip for applying these teachings today. Create a small altar or sacred space in your home dedicated to Mary, help of Christians. Place there a simple image of Mary under this title, perhaps a candle, and a written note describing your impossible situation. This visible reminder helps maintain your focus during the 3-day preparation and the feast day itself. But there's one significant obstacle that prevents many people from receiving the full benefits of these practices, something Padre Pio warned about repeatedly. It's an interior attitude that subtly undermines our connection to Mary, help of Christians, and most people are completely unaware they're harboring it. The obstacle that Padre Pio identified, the interior attitude that blocks many from receiving Mary's powerful help, is what he called secret self-reliance. This is the hidden tendency, even among devout Catholics, to mentally create backup plans while outwardly professing complete trust in divine assistance. Your lips say you trust, Padre Pio would observe, but your heart is busy making contingency plans. This divided heart, he taught, prevents the full flow of grace that Mary wants to provide. She cannot fill hands that are already clutching other solutions, he would explain. This insight invites us to a profound examination of conscience. Are we truly surrendering our impossible situations to Mary, help of Christians, or are we hedging our bets? I invite you now to take a moment for honest reflection. Think about the situation you're planning to entrust to Mary, help of Christians on May 24th. Have you truly released all your own solutions, timelines, and expectations about how the answer should come? Or are you still, perhaps unconsciously, trying to maintain control? Padre Pio would often ask his spiritual children, if Mary told you that your miracle would come, but in a way completely different from what you imagine, would you still be at peace? The answer to this question reveals much about the true state of our trust. A woman once came to Padre Pio distraught because her prayers to Mary, help of Christians, seemed unanswered. Her adult son had abandoned his faith, and despite her fervent prayers on several May 24ths, he showed no signs of returning to the church. When Padre Pio asked about her specific prayer, she admitted she had been asking for her son to start attending Sunday Mass again. That is your solution, not necessarily heaven's, Padre Pio gently corrected her. He advised her instead to simply pray for her son's salvation, leaving the path and timing to divine wisdom. The following year, her son didn't return to Mass. Instead, he entered a monastery after a profound conversion experience that occurred in a most unexpected way. This leads us to a powerful question. What might be holding you back from experiencing the full power of Mary's intercession on May 24th? Is it doubt, impatience, the need to control outcomes, or perhaps a subtle pride that believes your problems are too big even for the Queen of Heaven? Padre Pio often reminded his spiritual children that Mary, help of Christians, specializes in situations that appear completely hopeless by human standards. The more impossible your situation, he would say, the more fitting a case it is for her intervention. Your financial crisis, health challenge, family conflict, or spiritual struggle, the very impossibility of it makes it the perfect opportunity for her to demonstrate her power. There's an urgency to this message that I cannot overstate. We're living in times when spiritual protection and divine intervention are increasingly necessary. Padre Pio foresaw this era and emphasized that devotion to Mary, help of Christians, would become ever more crucial for the faithful. The time will come, he once prophesied, when those who have cultivated this devotion will find themselves protected, while others are left vulnerable to the storms. This isn't meant to frighten, but to emphasize the loving provision God has made through Mary's intercession for these challenging times. As May 24th approaches, I urge you to consider what might change in your life if you embrace these practices with complete trust. What breakthrough might be waiting for you if you set aside all reservations and followed Padre Pio's guidance wholeheartedly? Many only discover the transformative power of this devotion when every other door has closed, when doctors have given their final prognosis, when financial ruin seems certain, when relationships appear irreparably broken. But why wait until you've exhausted all human solutions? The help that Mary offers on her feast day is available now, but there's one final element that Padre Pio insisted was essential. The final element that Padre Pio emphasized about devotion to Mary, help of Christians, is perhaps the most beautiful and the most frequently overlooked. After you've done the 3-day preparation, after you've performed your meditation and act of charity on May 24th, Padre Pio insisted on one more step. Act as if your prayer has already been answered. The greatest act of faith, he would say, is to thank God and Mary for a miracle you cannot yet see. This isn't pretending or self-deception, it's the highest expression of trust. When you thank Mary, Help of Christians, as if she has already intervened, you're declaring your absolute confidence in her maternal care. This practice of anticipatory gratitude creates what Padre Pio called a spiritual atmosphere, in which miracles can manifest more readily. It's like preparing a landing place for the grace that's already on its way. Each morning after May 24th, he recommended beginning your day by saying, "Mary, Help of Christians, I thank you for the answer you have already arranged for me." A doctor from Rome shared a remarkable testimony about this practice. His daughter had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of cancer, and medical options were limited. After following Padre Pio's complete guidance for May 24th, he began thanking Mary daily for his daughter's healing, despite no visible improvement in her condition. 3 weeks later, pre-surgical tests revealed that the tumors had completely disappeared. The medical team had no explanation, but the father knew exactly what had happened. I encourage you right now, before May 24th arrives, to write down your impossible situation on a piece of paper. Place it somewhere private, perhaps in your Bible at the page of the wedding at Cana, where Mary told the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." This physical act serves as a tangible surrender of your need into Mary's capable hands. Then, on May 24th itself, after completing all the practices we've discussed, write across that paper a single word: thanked. This simple act symbolizes your transition from petition to gratitude, from asking to receiving. Many who have followed this advice report that the paper becomes a powerful testimony when the answer eventually manifests, sometimes in ways far more wonderful than they had imagined. Remember that Mary, Help of Christians, doesn't just want to solve your immediate problem. She wants to deepen your faith and draw you closer to her Son. The miraculous answers that come through her intercession always serve this greater purpose. As Padre Pio often reminded his spiritual children, Mary never works alone, but always leads to Jesus. If this message has touched your heart today, I encourage you to share it with someone who may be facing their own impossible situation. The Feast of Mary, Help of Christians on May 24th isn't widely celebrated in many places, despite its extraordinary spiritual significance. Your sharing might be the very lifeline someone else needs right now. Begin your preparation on May 21st with the 3 Hail Marys, arms extended. Set aside time for your special meditation on May 24th. Plan your anonymous act of charity. And then step into that beautiful space of trusting gratitude, knowing that Mary, Help of Christians, has taken your cause as her own. As Padre Pio would say to all his spiritual children who followed this path, may Mary, Help of Christians, spread her mantle of protection over you and your loved ones, bringing light to your darkness, healing to your wounds, and divine solutions to your human impossibilities.